Flares and explosions lit up the sky over Gaza as Israeli forces continued their bombardment of the enclave. After the collapse of a week-long ceasefire on the 1st of December, Tel Aviv began a ground offensive in southern Gaza last week. Now, Israel has since pushed further east into the heart of the city of Khan Yunis, with warplanes attacking an area to the west. Israeli airstrikes poured down on Gaza's largest southern city of Khan Yunis. Overnight, deadly clashes and bombing shook central and northern urban areas. Israeli police on Monday reported multiple impact sites of rocket fragments in Holon on the edge of Tel Aviv. They said one civilian was likely wounded. A video released by the Israeli army claimed to show weapons inside a mosque in Jabalia, northern Gaza.
אנחנו מגיעים פה לקומה השלישית, איפה שנכנסנו פה לחדרים, מצאנו ממש כאן מרחב אימונים של הארגון, נשקים, מחשב עם תוכנית אימונים ומקרן כדי לעשות כל מיני סיטואציות ולהתאמן. הרבה מאוד אמצעים אלקטרונים שפה החמאס מתאמן ומכין את המחבלים. בצד השני, בחדר השני, מעבדת אמל"ח. מצאנו מעבדת מטענים, ממש מאלף ועד תף, סוללות, הכל. זה מה שיש בתוך המסגדים פה, זה מה שיש בכל מסגד ומסגד שאנחנו נכנסים אליו.
The White House expressed concern over reports that Israel used US-supplied white phosphorus in attacks on Lebanon, adding it was seeking more details on the same. Now, Lebanon accused Israel of repeatedly using the incendiary weapon in October. The Washington Post said an analysis of shell fragments from one attack showed the rounds were US-made.
Obviously, there is legitimate military use for white phosphorus, but that does not include using them on civilians. It means that if you use them, you have to do everything you can to minimize civilian harm. Anytime that we provide items like white phosphorus or really anything to another military, we do it with the expectation that it will be used for legitimate purposes and in full keeping with international humanitarian law and the law of armed conflicts.
Separately, Israel's military said it was striking the source of munitions fired from Lebanon. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a war monitor, said Israeli strikes late Sunday near Damascus killed 2 Hezbollah fighters and 2 Syrians working with the group. On Monday, a local official in South Lebanon was killed by an Israeli shell. Israel's military said 104 soldiers had been killed and 582 wounded in its Gaza ground offensive, which began on the 27th of October. Defense Minister here said that Israel had no intention of staying permanently in the Gaza Strip. Yoav Gallant stated that Israel was open to discussing alternatives about who would control the territory as long as it was not a group hostile to Tel Aviv. He said that Israel was open to possibly reaching an agreement with Hezbollah on conditions of any agreement, including a safe zone along the border and proper guarantees.
Israel will take any measures in order to destroy Hamas. But we have no intention to stay permanently in Gaza Strip. We only take care of our security and the security of our citizens alongside the borders with Gaza and elsewhere.
Palestinians across the West Bank and East Jerusalem staged a general strike on Monday. Shops, schools and government offices shut in solidarity with Gazans. In Lebanon, public institutions, banks, schools and universities, they also closed. And a stoppage was observed in Istanbul's Yesenyurt district. Many businesses in the area are owned by Palestinians as well as people from Syria, Yemen and Iran. The World Health Organization Executive Board on Sunday adopted a resolution calling for immediate, unimpeded humanitarian access to Gaza. The WHO chief said that medics faced unimaginable conditions there. The 34 countries on the board adopted the resolution by consensus, though some, notably US, criticized the dearth of references to the Hamas attacks on the 7th of October. WHO chief Tedros said the board had managed to achieve the first consensus resolution on the conflict. Israel said more aid will enter Gaza as it announced 2 additional checkpoints for examining relief supplies before dispatching them through the Rafah gateway. No new direct crossings will be opened, but the Nitzana and Kerem Shalom crossings will be used to carry out checks before sending the trucks through Rafah. The UN General Assembly is set to meet to discuss the humanitarian crisis in Gaza next, after the US last week vetoed a Security Council resolution for a ceasefire, and that makes it so important. Diplomatic sources say another ceasefire resolution could be proposed, though General Assembly resolutions are non-binding. On Monday, UN Security Council ambassadors travelled to Egypt to meet Gazan victims of the war in an informal one-day trip organized by Abu Dhabi and Cairo. The European Union's top diplomat said that the situation in Gaza is catastrophic and apocalyptic. Josep Borrell said that the destruction is proportionally even greater than that which Germany experienced in World War II.
Important of the destruction of buildings in Gaza, which is more or less or even greater than the destruction suffered by the German cities during the Second World War, just in order to have an idea of the humanitarian situation that the United Nations has been denouncing on the last days.